Hey everyone, welcome to Perkstream for October 27th, 2021. I'm glad you're here as we continue our journey with Elijah. Well, welcome back. Last week we started talking about one of the great prophets of the Old Testament, Elijah. But there's one thing I wanted you to know, and it comes from the pen of the brother of Jesus, James, when he says that, remember that Elijah was a human being just like us. And that's important for us as we think about what does it mean to live through dark times. And Pastor Jonathan Hoover of New Spring Church in Wichita focused a talk on Elijah that was meant to encourage us that, we're needed and we should never give up no matter how dark it is. He talked about how Elijah went from highs to lows. Now, he sent us this video to encourage us as we talk about what it means to live through dark times and not give up. Take a listen.
Hi PMC, my name is Dr. Jonathan Hoover, and I just wanted to introduce the talk that you're getting ready to see in just a minute. At our church at New Spring, one of the things that we've been developing a growing concern about is how many believers that we know that have been going through just such a dark season and really going through times of questioning their purpose and their meaning, not even sometimes wanting to go on. As a matter of fact, as a pastor, I've stood alongside caskets and preached funerals for people that made a decision to end their life. And as a person who works as both a pastor and a research psychologist, it's important to me to think about the convergence of our faith in Jesus Christ and what we know about the science of mental health, which is really just learning more about God's character. God expresses himself in his creation. So as we begin to learn about the brain and how it functions and about how our mental health challenges sort of develop and what we can do to address those, we're learning more about God's incredible creation. And so I think it's important for us to be able to have very frank discussions about issues of mental health. And in the talk that you're getting ready to see, we're taking a look at this issue of severe depression, of not wanting to go on, of even having those thoughts sometimes of maybe I shouldn't be here. And I hope this is helpful for you as we talk about Elijah. Now, Elijah, his story is so cool because we see all the way back in the Old Testament the story of a person who was clearly going through severe depression, and we see how God dealt with him in the moment of that crisis. So I hope that you enjoy this talk, and also feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. God bless you. Thank you for being here today at PMC.
Jonathan, I want to thank you for your encouragement today. And thanks for sending us this video. Well, what do you know about Elijah? Well, if you go to the Old Testament book of 1 Kings, starting at chapter 17, what we find out is Elijah just seems to burst onto the scene with a declaration that there's going to be a drought. And in the name of Yahweh, he calls for a 3.5-year drought. And the Lord hid him away for a time, but then he goes to this woman in Zarephath, a Gentile country, which happens to be where Jezebel, the wife of King Ahab, is from. And there the Lord provided food for them. And when the widow's son died, Elijah prayed and the boy came back to life. And the next time we see Elijah pray, fire falls from heaven. And then a drought-busting rain comes on the land. Well, Jezebel's not impressed. In fact, she issues a death warrant for Elijah. So this man of God who called for a drought, prayed for life, prayed fire from heaven, and prayed for the end of a drought, now ran for his life. So he left the place he was called to, which was Israel, and he went through Judah, and he went into the desert, and he prayed that God would take his life. And as a man of prayer, Elijah may have thought, if I've prayed for all these other things, God's going to answer this prayer too. And if he doesn't answer this prayer, then I may have to take some other action. As it worked out, God supernaturally provided food for him so he could journey to Mount Sinai, the Mount of God, and there God meets with him with one simple question. What are you doing here, Elijah? So sometimes life may seem so dark and disorienting, even though we have witnessed wonderful things from God, and we want God to change our circumstances. And if God's not willing to do that, well, maybe we are willing to consider taking action. And this is where I want you to stop and listen for the voice of God. And can you hear him asking you, what are you doing here? Elijah basically told God that he felt isolated, alone, and afraid. And he said, I'm no better than those who went before me. Now, God had 4 things he wanted Elijah to know, and we're going to cover those over the next 4 weeks. But what I want you to hear today is this one message: you are never alone. So in Northern California, there is a lava tube called Subway Cave, and when you get in about 500 feet and you turn off your flashlight, you cannot see the hand in front of your face. It goes totally dark, and it can be very disorienting and debilitating. But I did this with a group of friends, and I know one thing was a great comfort. There were people with me, and I was not alone. Friend, you may be in a dark place, but know this: you are not alone. And God has a message for you, and it starts with this question: what are you doing here? And as you answer that question, know that God's message that follows is meant to get you back to a place of light and life. Stand in the darkness for just a moment and know this: you are not alone, and God has a message of light and life for you. And next week, we're going to hear the first message from the Lord that helped Elijah regain his inner compass and his purpose. And remember that Elijah was a human just like us. So for all the great things he saw, for a moment he stood in the dark, but he was never alone. And that is good news for him and for us, that the light is on the way. So the Lord bless you today. See you next week for another Perkstream as we hear the word of the Lord for Elijah and for us. Take care.